Hello, everyone. This is the Developmental Psychology series, and this is part 4. We're talking about infancy, and we're going to talk now about insecure attachment and the outcomes there from. Hit the like or dislike button, leave me suggestions, subscribe if you want to, hit the alert button if you want to. That would help. Okay. For you. And for me, for comments and so forth. I want to improve what this is for you. So let's talk about insecure attachment. In the last video, video 3, we talked about secure attachment. So insecure attachment is one where infants begin to show withdrawal because relationships are not safe, avoidance to interacting with humans in general, less resilience, more reaction to stress, self-control is reduced, and less curiosity. Particularly in preschool, you start to see this. And then in adolescence, this is all kind of the opposite of secure attachment. Troublesome peer relationships. And in adulthood, lower self-efficacy, which means they tend to believe that they're not really sort of in charge of the good work they can do and the efficiency with which they can go about doing so, and lowered self-esteem. They don't tend to feel as positively about themselves. Their real self-image is reduced. And so the most common way that insecure attachments, there being 3 of those, are patterns of withdrawal. Okay, that's the most common kind. But you could have what's called indiscriminate attachment to others later on in adolescence and adulthood, which means that they form relationships with people that are not safe. It can lead to risky choices, perhaps even dangerous relationships. Because if you, in the first year or so of life, experience the world as dangerous, because that's what you would conclude if your needs weren't being met, then you would expect the world to not meet your needs. And so you're going to search for what you've experienced and find it in people who will not meet your needs. And some of those can be abusive in some cases. Does this make sense? Now, there's something that's actually a disorder that we call reactive attachment disorder, which I call RAD, not a completely unconnected acronym. So reactive attachment disorder is a diagnostic category. It's not common, it's rare, but when you have it, it's seen in lots of things in the infant, and it includes things like feeding problems and severe colic and not gaining weight. It could result in what's called failure to thrive. They don't gain weight. They're very detached from and unresponsive, even in an attempt to console them and comforted. They don't react to that. In fact, research tells us they don't in their brains generate oxytocin when being comforted, as it is released in people who don't have this disorder when they are comforted with lots of oxytocin, which is a brain chemical that has to do with pair bonding and comfort and attachment in adulthood and also in children. So they become preoccupied or maybe even defiant in their behavior, and they have 2 different behavioral styles associated with reactive attachment disorder. One is called the inhibited type. This is where they have great hesitancy in social interactions. They're really withdrawn because social interactions are scary. Or, and this is maybe even more dangerous in some ways, the disinhibited type, where they have inappropriate and indiscriminate familiarity or closeness with strangers and even family members. They might go up to somebody that they don't know and fondle them. This kind of thing requires, as a solution to those with anxious attachments, but also this diagnostic category, long-term treatment in a structured way, very structured, where the household where they're living is very structured and where everything is set in place. They benefit from that greatly. Okay. So what are the sources of this negative attachment styles that we've talked about? So mom has influences on this trust versus mistrust, as Eric Erickson would say, trusting the environment versus not trusting it. Moms respond quickly. They hold, they cuddle, they play, they talk, they feed, they clean, they warm. Food, water, warmth, rest, safety, security, cuddles. Mistrust is developed when the care is inconsistent, when there's not much affection and not much talking to and attention, when moms display fear and suspicion and anger, little language interaction, that's a big one, not feeding when hungry, not cleaning when dirty, not regulating temperature and warming when cool and cooling when warm. You see, just the opposite. Now, severe conditions, severe conditions in mom that can contribute to insecure attachment include psychosis. Schizophrenia is one example of a psychotic disorder. Malevolent narcissism, so not just low-level benevolent narcissism, but malevolent, significant, harming people around them or avoiding the needs of others around them regularly, malevolent narcissism. Untreated severe depression and bipolar disorder, either one or both. Drugs and alcohol, even if it's only binge drinking or binge using. And other pathologies of any kind. Child abuse, of course, we would imagine is one of those, yes? Factitious disorder by proxy, which used to be called Munchausen syndrome by proxy, is a special form of child abuse, actually. Now, babies can contribute to this attachment issue. It's not just only possibly from mom. It could also be from the baby, but it would really be required some elements of both, but it could be just mom. Generally, you see a host of things. So there may be medical issues for the child and requiring long stays in neonatal intensive care units. Severe physical problems and malformations and difficulties physically that might create long stays in NICU, or just pain issues that create pain. Boy, that's hard, isn't it? Difficult temperament can cause problems in the way the mother is able to care for the child in a way that is responsive and feels good to the mom. And then medical issues that require consolability, but actually are ones that create inconsolability, where you can't console the child. Okay. So this trust versus mistrust I want to talk a little bit more about. So what is trust? Well, trust is actually an emotion. Remember, babies respond to the world emotionally. And so it's a state of confidence that they get. It's an expectation that they have that they are valued, that their needs will be met, and that will continue. And it's inferred in babies' behavior from delayed gratification, warmth and delight in interacting with families. That's what you'll see. Yeah. Now, a question for you would be, do you think daycare is inherently bad, or is it, despite being at times necessary, not very difficult? Well, there's a debate going on. There's a debate. Is excessive daycare under the age of 1 going to interrupt secure attachment? Well, the overall agreement by research and what's been done so far suggests that high-quality daycare is what matters. That's a problem in finding high-quality daycare that you can afford. It's difficult to find in this country, not so much in many European countries. In fact, in some European countries, when you have a baby and the female gets a year off with pay and her job back, And dad may get 6 months off full pay and job back to increase this attachment process and as a positive one, and that's fascinating that they would do that and recognize this issue. I'm going to suppose to you that many of the problems we see now have to do with the ways in which inappropriate daycare or no daycare or swapping out caregivers all the time has caused problems we're seeing in adults now. So quality daycare, well-trained staff, low staff turnover, low child to caregiver ratio, lots of activities and warmth, but adequate and loving time by mom is crucial while the baby's awake when she's not at work and home and can take care of the baby, okay? So trust generates what Erik Erikson called hope. Hope is an enduring, it hangs in there your whole life, unconscious, as you're not consciously aware of it, belief that you will get your primal wishes met of safety, security, food, water, warmth, rest, and cuddles. And in spite of threatening estrangement or periodic disappointment, and it generates lots of energy to be in the world and create new solutions and meet challenges and meet conflicts with confidence. So basically, trust means that there's a hope that relationships will satisfy some of your needs. Okay? The opposite, mistrust, can create what Erik Erikson called withdrawal. And withdrawal, in his meaning, is both social and emotional withdrawal. A general orientation to the world of wariness and anxiety and suspicion. It may be seen as passivity or lethargy, or it may be seen in neutral or negative affect. It's not always a completely obvious negative thing, because that withdrawal is pulling away, not necessarily acting out in the moment. It's a belief that the relationships won't satisfy your needs. Now, that indiscriminate attachment that we see in that one form that's a disorder called RAD can also occur because of intensely disturbing events in childhood that makes it look like the child may have RAD or a severely insecure attachment. So for example, physical and sexual abuse or huge losses in early childhood. And that requires, in the same way that RAD requires, healing processes that are very long-term and ongoing. So to overcome mistrust and chaos in the patterns of their relationships has to be ameliorated over the long term. So how do you get hope? Well, again, this is all about attachment that's positive. You love your child. You take care of them. You spend as much time as you can with them. You keep them safe. You meet their basic needs. And so that, my friends, is infancy.